Let's go. Game time.
Welcome to the Better Baby Daddy podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, John Laxman.
I'm your other co-host, Kelly Burgess.
And today we are going to talk about something that is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah.
And that is mental health and fatherhood. So the mental health of men. Yeah. Ooh, heavy topic.
Very, very heavy. One is not talked about a lot.
No, it's not.
We just kind of tend to soldier through, but we're going to
Yeah.
unpack it probably in 2 parts today. So we got 8 things we want to touch upon. We're going to touch upon 4 and then hit the other 4 another time.
Yes, sir. I think first it's good to establish, what mental health is, establishing that, and then going maybe into some personal stories of our own struggles with that. So how would you define mental health?
That's a good question. And we haven't talked about this before in terms of our definition, so this is all to be fresh. But I would say mental health is the ability to accurately process your feelings and circumstances around you in a healthy way. It's to see it for what it is, and then to process your response to it in a healthy way. So the converse is these things are happening. I'm not seeing them for what they are, and I'm taking that information and then processing that in a negative way, in a damaging way.
Yes.
So that's kind of, not a medical person, but that's what it would be for me. If I'm in a stressful situation, I recognize, man, this is stressing me. I feel the stress in my body. I'm angry, but I got this menu of choices and I'm going to choose A, which is the healthiest one. Or like you said, is the best next dad move, as opposed to, I'm stressed. I recognize I'm stressed and I'm going to go out and just get plastered. Or I'm going to go and take it out on my kids and wife physically, right?
Yeah.
Or partner physically. Or I'm going to do something else negative. Right?
So looking for negative coping mechanisms would be a negative way to handle your mental health. So we get lost in alcohol, we get lost in drugs, we get lost in some form of an addiction, or we create some form of an addiction, or we get lost in this emotional outburst where we literally lose control. Where people say, oh, I blacked out.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't have positive mental health.
Oh.
And that might be for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we didn't grow up in a family that taught us how to process those things, where it was okay to express those things.
Right.
So there's a lot of suppression that occurred with our emotions. And then that suppression eventually led to outbursts throughout our life. And what became adults, and we were immature emotionally because of that.
Yeah.
Personal story.
Well, personal story is like, a lot of it is looking back on, for me, the close connection is my dad, right? So you tend to think, okay, I saw my dad respond to these things. I see myself responding in a similar way. And then as a result of going to, therapy to work through some things, it's like, that wasn't a healthy way to do it. For him, it was avoidance, right? Mom was, she was a firebrand, right? Because he did things to bring some firebrand out of her. So it was, symbiotic. But his response to the stresses of being a parent, being a partner, was avoidance. And so that wasn't a healthy way to deal with it. So as I got to know him older, I understood where it came from. I think they were that generation where, one, you weren't going to no counselor. You just, mental health was like.
Especially minority populations, right?
Absolutely. It wasn't a thing. And so not until much later. And I even remember him later, a doctor saying, hey, I'm going to set these counseling up for that, like talk therapy. And he's like, he went to one. He's like, that ain't for me, So that's my quickest one. But personal story, I remember in the throes of a breakup, and it was the only time, I don't think I've ever shared this with you, with very, very few people. It was the only time where I even for a moment contemplated suicide because the stress of the situation was so tense.
Wow.
The breakup was fresh. The reality of the consequences of some of my decisions were, the weight of those were sitting on me. And I remember thinking, just for a brief moment, I was at this rail track thinking, probably nobody would miss me, or this was an option. Now, there was a store I was there to do some shopping at this store that was near the railroad track. And so, after a minute or so, I snapped out of it and went and got my kids' uniforms or something like that. It kind of, but I remember thinking that clearly.
Yeah.
And because it was such a stressful situation. So, and then, I think prayer, my faith, some good friends help they just kind of bring you back to center. Weight doesn't change, but it brings you back to like, okay, mentally, let's handle this in a more healthy way.
Yeah. Wow, man.
Yeah.
Intense stuff there. I think for me, growing up, I was a big suppressor, a super suppressor, right? All my emotions were tucked in. And then that would lead to eventual, and I hate to use the word catastrophic, but enormous outbursts of anger, whether it occurred with friends at a young age or on my mother at a young age.
Right.
And then as I became older, it would occur in pickup games of basketball, all of a sudden I'm exploding, or pickup games of football, I'm exploding. And then, having a partner as, I begin dating and getting into relationships and those type of things, all of a sudden, there's these random outbursts because something they did triggered me inside. And I hate using the word triggered, but something just set me off.
Yeah.
And it could have been minor. And they're probably like, what the heck is going on? And I'm just like emotional monster because I felt disrespected. But I've been holding all this emotion in. So my outburst didn't match
Right.
the trigger itself. So I'm over the top. I can remember times where I'm punching doors, putting holes in doors, smashing coffee tables. I mean, you know me now, right? So I remember all types of these like just extreme emotional outbursts that occurred. And then being, always feeling like on the edge and walking my life on eggshells, no matter who was around, because I knew that I was capable of some extreme anger.
Right.
And maybe not necessarily violence. I never put my hand on a woman.
Right.
I've never done that.
Right.
But there's times where you were just like,
Yeah.
you're on the precipice of doing those things because you're unhealthy emotionally.
Yeah.
Just completely unhealthy emotionally and mentally. So yeah, I've been to some extremes. I'll even share it like along the same lines as you, where I felt there was moments where I'm like, yeah, no one's gonna miss me.
Yeah.
Because I'm so messed up emotionally after breakups and not seeing my kids, where I'm like, it's gonna be better for everybody. They'll actually get some money from me being away, and you have these crazy thoughts, and then you really got to work. No, whether you're going to therapy or not going to therapy, whether you're speaking with someone that's a mentor or not, you still have a lot of work you have to do. Like it's still, you got to pick up the shovel and dig the hole, right? Or dig yourself out of the hole, right? You still have to do that work. Like there are people that are like, hey, we'll actually do it a little bit this way. They'll aid you in that process, whether it's a counselor or a mentor, but you still have to do the work. And it's a lot of heavy mental lifting to get out of that hole.
It is.
It is, man.
Because sometimes you're fighting against just generations of patterns. And all you see is, you just see that pattern unconsciously. It's like, that's how we handle it. That's how, Burgess men handle these things. And to consciously choose to do something different in the moments, it feels so unnatural. But until you get that as the pattern and establish this new, kind of new groove, it is going to feel like, and it's funny because there's nothing physically on you that's this resistance. It's a mental resistance, and it's a lot of work. And so all that's to say is that, man, hey, personally, all of us as men, particularly if you're in the throes of a tough breakup, you're fresh, we understand that battle that for your mental health.
Actually, this moment right here gave me a revelation.
What's that? And
that is my father, and the only emotion that I can ever remember him showing was anger. Nothing else.
Wow.
I'm going through all the files in my head right now, and that is the only emotion I can ever remember him showing. Was anger, no matter what was going on.
That's funny. And mine was the opposite. One time I remember my dad, maybe twice. My brother and I both at different situations swelled up on my mom, and they weren't even together. But he showed up. We call him the Great Ghost because he would just pop up. He showed up to rectify those situations, like to recalibrate it. It's the only time I don't ever remember him raising his voice. He was a professional stuffer. And it's funny, when you reflect, but, I think that's part of the first step is like, let's take, an inventory of like, well, what were we exposed to mentally, right? And then say, okay, I'm going to choose that. I'm not going to choose that. And here's some steps.
Literally breaking generational curses.
No doubt about it.
Right? From a mental, emotional standpoint. Wow. All right, man. So defining mental health. We kind of did that a little bit, but let's define it in regards to fatherhood. What mental health really means for fathers. What does it really mean for a father? And what are some common misconceptions? How we should carry ourselves as fathers? Because maybe my dad had some very big misconceptions in terms of mental health and fatherhood. Maybe he didn't want to show any weakness. And that viewpoint led to him to only display anger. And that anger was, a lot of times I think as men, we view anger as strength. But really it's a lack of strength, because now we are in a position where our anger is controlling our actions, right? If we don't have control of our emotion or able to restrain our emotion, then how much power do you really have?
Yeah, you definitely giving it up. And so, I think you and I have a similar concept that, man needs to be capable of being a menace.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So your family's threatened, your personhood is threatened.
Yes.
You need to bring menace to the table, right? But a wise man and a strong man is able to give that out in doses.
And
right?
only when absolutely
Only when
necessary.
absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
So I think a common misconception, you touched upon it, there's two to come to mind. Is one is that, you're just strong all the time. You're flexing, you're this alpha, and everybody knows you're the alpha because you're doing alpha-ish things in terms of these outbursts and these outlandish shows of your physical strength or verbal strength.
Mhm.
But like you said, a strong man is able to control that, right?
Mhm.
The second thing I think is that misconception is that we always have to feel strong, that
Mm.
we always have to be and present strength. Like we can't ever display weakness. And so I think I don't know where that comes from, but I think it's definitely starts very, very young,
Yeah.
that you're if you show vulnerability, then you're a weak man, you're a weak person.
Mm.
I think it takes so much strength to say, I'm really not cutting it today. I
Mhm.
need some, assistance with this, or this is really a troubling area in my life and nobody
Mhm.
knows about it. I'm able to kind of move and shake and keep it, smooth over. But I think a misconception is that, you always have to present this veneer of, I got it all together.
Agreed, agreed. I think, there's a lot of variables that play into men feeling that way. One of the, concepts that we had talked about in the past was assertive vulnerability,
Correct.
right? So knowing the appropriate I hate to do this, but or I even hate to say this, but, like, the appropriate time to be vulnerable, I think is very important for a man,
Right.
right? Because vulnerability in the wrong spot
Right.
can be detrimental.
Okay.
All right. And I'm tiptoeing around this, right?
Okay.
But for example,
I can't wait to hear this. We all go through this.
tiptoeing, right? I'm at work. I'm having a frustrating time at work,
Okay.
right? And I find someone to confide in about that frustration. You see where I'm going,
I
B?
do. I
All
do.
right. So that type of vulnerability
Sure.
can lead to all types of
No doubt
situations,
about it.
right?
Yeah.
And even like to take it away from quote unquote confining in someone that I shouldn't be confining in,
Cool.
right? But also like going to my boss and having this emotional outburst about, oh, this is too tough for me. Is there a better way to process that and relay that message? Can I take some alone time, meditate on it, pray on it, whatever I need to do to get through that frustration, that annoyance that is occurring,
Right.
and then be vulnerable in an assertive way with it, where I'm not victimizing myself.
Correct. Okay, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying with it. Yeah. Yeah. So you're going into it recognizing that you can you- you're not pretending like it's not a difficult situation you're in.
Yes.
Or you're
Yes.
facing this hurdle.
I'm not suppressing it.
Right.
I'm not avoiding it.
Right.
I'm acknowledging it.
Yeah, but you're not also saying I'm powerless against it.
Correct.
Okay. Got
And just understanding who I'm being vulnerable with and in what context and what environment I'm being vulnerable in.
Sure, that's true.
I think that all goes into that assertive aspect of it, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
some discretion you have that.
And I think another major misconception is that men shouldn't seek help. There are some situations that are massive. And just from a personal aspect, when I was going through things that were very major in my life from a mental, emotional, I sought therapy. I went out and looked for therapy.
Right.
Now, I will say this, that therapy, I don't want to bash therapists, or I'll just say the therapist that I ran into did not vibe with me.
Right.
Right? They were cut from a different cloth.
Okay.
I mean, I think that maybe that's therapy in general.
Yeah.
Like overall, all right?
Yes.
But I needed someone to keep it more authentic with me as opposed to look at me like I'm some type of victim,
Okay.
right? Because I know the decisions I made got me in my position.
Right.
So I don't need you to tell me, oh, it's okay, you're gonna get me better. I don't need to hear that. Because I know what I've done. I've already owned the fact that I've done certain things that put me in a place where, but I wanted it to be able to be like, all right, yeah, you know what, John, you're right. That was a stupid thing. Just to hear that, a lot of times, first, I think some men is just acknowledgement of, you know what, you were dumb, but you can get through this.
Yeah. And it is it, but that's another thing where, hey, it's not one size fits all, right?
Right.
And you
Yeah.
have to go through 3 or 4 before you find one that really is the good balance of holding you accountable.
Yes.
But hey, here's think about these ways forward.
Right. And I think so many therapists, especially, are into labeling. Like there's a book out called Bad Therapy. I can't remember the author's name, but it's more aligned with children going to therapy. But the concept itself is that we are therapists are like, oh, well, this is what's wrong with you. Here's the diagnosis. Here's your sign that you need to wear around your neck because you're this now. Type
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay. Right.
So yeah, misconception is that men, and I know I got a little off topic there, should not seek help.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yep. So a couple misconceptions that we touched upon there. And it's good to get those out in the open so that you can say, oh, okay, I recognize those in myself.
Yeah.
I've done them. I recognize them in the men or the,
Yes.
family situation that I've seen. And so, why are we even talking about mental health is because mental illness causes more stress. A couple of episodes ago, we talked about the impact of stress and how to negate that. And so when you're unhealthy mentally, it just compounds the stress in your life.
Yeah, it really does. And stress is that unseen. It's like carbon monoxide poisoning, right? Like literally, like it's building up, building up, building up, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like gravity.
woo.
It's
Oh
always
yeah,
working on you.
yeah,
And your ability to manage it is key.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Stress. The detriments of stress come in a couple different ways. We have the physical aspects of stress,
Yeah.
right? What it does to us physically, emotionally, what it does to us,
Right.
and then in terms of our behavior, what it does to us.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that emotional behavioral thing definitely are linked. But physically, what are some of the signs that you've seen physically because of stress?
Yeah, I think extreme fatigue, inflammation, just body soreness,
Mm.
joint soreness. It shows up for me, when I'm overly stressed or I've done too much or I'm not processing things, feeling in my knees. I'm
Mm.
like an old man. I feel in my knees, my hips, right? And then you're just tired. You want to sleep all the time. You want to veg out. I'm not an outburst dude. There's some times when I've done that, unique circumstances where I'm with somebody and that combination of me and her is like, yo, I'm really like a whole nother person around you. Like, I can't be in the car with you right now. Like, we're both gonna catch a charge. But that's so rare. So mine is suppression, and then it works itself out with fatigue and
Mm.
just soreness. Like,
Yeah.
your body's like, something's the matter.
From a physical standpoint, it's definitely fatigue, just where I'm just drained and I don't have energy to do normal things that I do all the time.
Correct. And so
Yeah.
think about that in
Yeah.
terms of, so how would the impacts, and you got little ones, right? That require
Yeah.
a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when you're stressed or overly stressed, we're all stressed. But you're over you're overly stressed because your mental health is suffering. How does that impact you as a dad at that point?
Yeah, I just don't feel like doing what I need to do with my children. Now, and let me preface that though. That hasn't really occurred lately. I'm much better at managing stress.
Right.
I'm not saying I don't get stressed. We all get stressed every single day, no
Sure.
matter who we are, right? Unless we're the Dalai Lama,
Right.
right? But that's something that used to occur much more often previously. Once I've become better at managing stress through exercise, through
Right.
meditation, through prayer, it hasn't really occurred at that level anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the overall fatigue, and you're not playing with your kids, right? You're stressed,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize that stress may be the catalyst for your fatigue
Right.
that is leading to you not interacting with your children
Yes.
and not having these positive moments and creating these positive memories with
Right.
your children because you're stressed about, the baby mama thing is going on right
Yeah.
now, da 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 da, and child support and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah.
Or situations that I create. Oh, I introduced this new woman into my child's life, but I didn't tell my BM. Oh
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
So physically, physically you just feel it. And then, of course, there's all types of ways that stress manifests itself physically that we're not talking about here. Like there's weight gain,
Yep.
right? There's bags under the eyes, right? There's gray hairs that people talk about. I don't know how there's science behind that
Yep.
or not.
Yep.
There's the inflammation that you talked about.
Yep.
It's just, it can beat you down physically. And then internally, we can talk about the impact on our cardiovascular system. So it's a beast physically.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stomach ache, nausea, all that stuff.
No doubt. And then when you're not feeling physically together, then emotionally,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just gonna run down on you, right?
Yeah.
So, you're fatigued, so you don't do something you're supposed to do or you need to do or your kids want you to do. And then emotionally you're feeling guilty about, man, I'm really dropping the ball here. And so then that emotion, and I think the emotions and mental are right, they're kissing cousins, right?
Yeah.
And so mentally, you can easily get in your head about what you're not as a dad, as opposed to what strengths you bring to the table as a dad.
You end up in positions that we just talked about where you're thinking about, well, maybe if I just did this, no one's gonna miss me anyhow,
Yeah.
right? That impetus for those things
Yeah.
was stress.
Very small.
Yeah. Stress led us down those roads,
No
those
doubt about
paths.
it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And then, the emotions. So you got physically these impacts, emotionally, not where I want to be, think is not right. And then it works itself out into actions
Mm-hmm.
and behaviors. And so,
The behaviors.
yeah. And behaviors to me are like repeated habits, repeated actions that are habits, right?
Okay.
Not just, I had this outburst one time,
Mhm.
even though it could come out that way. But when you have, hey, this is my response to stress,
Yes.
and it's an unhealthy thing.
Yes.
We talked about different substance abuses or avoidance or
Yeah.
continual outbursts.
Yes.
All you remember is, hey, daddy was mad or he was drunk, like that. is you're in a really, really tough place at that point. So
Yeah, those behaviors can be beasts because they're going to impact everyone around you, everybody around you. So those behaviors, like you said, there's we see coping mechanisms. The body is going to seek ways to deal with it
yeah,
if you're not proactive in dealing with it yourself.
right.
And a lot of times, what we seek are the easiest, most comfortable ways to deal with things.
Yeah.
And that's if you're not being proactive,
Yeah.
if you're not putting in the necessary positive work to deal
Right.
with it. So
Right.
it's alcohol, it's other substances.
Yeah.
It
You know,
it's yeah.
you're usually gonna. I mean, I don't know about ladies, but men are usually gonna seek the quickest, most satisfying thing,
Yes.
and then it's doing it over and over that turns it into an addiction or problematic behavior. And so when you see these things happening, oh, okay, it's time for a mental checkup. It's time to get another voice or something that can kind of shine a mirror on, hey, when you do these things, what do you think about? Is this positive? Is this heading you in the direction where you want it to be? Why do you think you go to that?
Mhm.
Those are really telltale signals that, when the behaviors like that, is telltale signals that you definitely got to get some help.
So then when we're talking about stress, the overall thing is like, what is that impact on your parenting decisions? What's the ripple effect of those decisions and the ripple effect of stress in general?
Right.
Right. And then are we ensure that we're acknowledging all the emotions that come along with stress? Or are we suppressing some of those emotions?
Right.
So let's start with those parenting decisions. So we already touched on that a little bit.
We
Like
did.
maybe we're not spending as much time with the kids because we're fatigued.
Right.
Well, what other parenting decisions occur because of stress that may not be so positive in nature?
Yeah, I think when I was stressed
Mm.
and not making the best decisions, one of the first things is I was unable to see the co-parent in a positive light, and I would communicate those things to the kids. So, and sometimes it was little snide remarks, or it was not presenting the co-parent in the best light that it could be presented in, even when there was conflict between us. So when I'm stressed, I'm not able to tell my kids, hey, ask your mom about that, or your mother did this because she loves you, or, if you have a question about that, ask her. It was, well, how your mom is.
Mm.
But she's always been that way.
Mm.
Or yeah, that's why I left, or, something,
I'm sorry.
it's terrible. And I didn't necessarily say those things, but those things that come out your mouth, right? Well, I might say
All right, maybe that one.
that one time. But, the parent decision is I'm not working to be a better co-parent when I'm stressed, right? It's
Yeah.
not on the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
And so I'm either apathetic about it or, I'm more contentious with it. And then I'm not consistent in my parenting, right? That's the other thing. I'm not patient. I'm not able to listen because I got my own stuff going on. And I might be permissive one day, next day I'm outburst, and you better not ever do that because it reminds me of something I did. It's like we're just all over the place. Yeah.
So there's no consistency in your
Correct.
emotional well-being.
Correct.
Interesting. I would say for me
Mhm.
is not making decisions that are best for the kids, right?
That's
So
right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm stressed. So like, oh no, we can't do that because
Yeah.
right? Or yes, let's go do that because I'm stressed and I don't want your mom to think bad of me
Right.
or say something bad about the situation.
Yeah.
So now I'm spending money I don't have,
Mhm.
doing things that we shouldn't be doing,
Mhm.
right? And I'm buying you things that you don't need and that I don't have money to spend on,
Mhm.
but I want you to show that your mom because I'm so worried about how she views me and how she's talking about me to her friends.
Yeah.
Like making decisions that's not necessarily best for the kid. It's not
No.
best for me. And it's
Okay.
not going to change her, or then not making certain decisions because of what I think might be a negative reaction because I'm so stressed, right? So like, all right, yeah. So it'd be fun to go sled riding, but it's 15 degrees outside. We're not going outside because I don't want your mom talking about, oh, it's
Yeah.
too cold to be outside, all this stuff. So just avoiding certain things
Yeah.
that aren't dangerous, aren't
Right.
harmful,
Right.
aren't going to necessarily hurt the kids in any way. But like, I don't want to deal
Deal with the
the fallout of that situation,
Yeah.
even though I know that I'm well within my right as a father to do
Right.
these things.
Right.
But the stress
right.
that I'm under because of the things that I've done and the kickback that I'm going to get, it
Right.
just ain't worth it to me.
Yeah.
So now we sitting in the house doing nothing because I'm still I'm going through this whole mental playbook of things.
The one thing also is that kids sense the stress when we're stressed. They feel
Yeah. And that's part of that ripple effect,
it
right?
is. Yeah. So we don't have to come out, at breakfast and say, Dad is stressed today, and the kid is like, I'm glad you said something about that. I said some tension. They're gonna feel the tension. We're laughing about it, but they absorb that.
Yeah.
Right? They absorb that energy and that vibe from us.
Yeah.
And so when we're not not calm in the sense that we're ignoring the situation, but when we stuff and it comes out in other ways, they can sense. I remember as a little kid feeling like, yo, my mom's not in a good space right now. She's a little heated. And it's
Yeah.
like, let me just go in a quiet room and just stay out the way, right? And so that comes out in our kids and they learn to process stress in that way. Let me just avoid this thing.
Yeah.
Let me get away from this angry person. So that's a ripple effect. They don't get the coping mechanisms that they need,
Hmm.
as opposed to us saying, "Hey, Dad's I'm a little worked up. I'm gonna go take a walk. I'll be right back. We'll watch that show you wanted as soon as I come back." Yeah, just hang tight.
Yeah, the parenting decision one because of stress is such a big one because we're impacting our kids in so many different ways. And then if we're not taking care of ourselves or doing what's necessary for our own mental health, then we're probably most likely negatively impacting our children's mental health as well.
All right.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm stressed and then I make a parenting decision consciously, unconsciously, however you want to like have an emotional outburst with my child because they did something that I didn't like, right? It's because of my stress.
Right.
Then I negatively impacted my child because of that. I could remember, I can't remember the exact what situation, but my little one, she's probably 3 or 2 at the time, and she's about to turn 6 now. So probably around 2. She did something, and I'm like, "Ah," I'm so angry.
Mm.
And then I stopped in the middle, and I was like, "That was my fault.
Yeah.
That was my fault.
Right.
She's 2 years old.
Right.
I put her in a situation where the only outcome was this.
Right. Right.
She
Yeah.
wasn't gonna handle
Yeah.
this any better than she
Right.
did." But that moment right there was like a tipping point, turning point for me.
Right.
So understanding how my stress, because of everything that was going on around me,
Right.
within my child in that moment.
Wow.
And it also gave me this, and this is a slightly off topic, understanding that children are only responsible for so much,
Yeah.
and the rest falls on us no matter what.
Yeah.
Later on, this is maybe 6 months later, I don't know, but I remember I was personal training a client, and she was with me, and I gave her my cell phone, right? No case on the cell phone, right? And she's sitting in the chair and cement floor, and she drops it and cracks the cell phone. Right before I was like, I was gonna say something, I realized I thought back to that moment that I had just spoken about, and I was like, that's my fault. I gave a 3-year-old or a 2-year-old a cell phone to occupy her without a case on it
Right.
on a cement floor.
Right.
What did I think the outcome was going to be? But that's because I had done a little bit of work to
Yeah.
deal with that stress and I didn't
Yeah.
have that outburst with her.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, that's mental health. That's recognizing I was at this place before.
Yeah.
I didn't want to stay at that place. I did some work, was presented with another opportunity to have that same behavior, chose a different behavior, and owned my response to it. And that, to me, is it in a nutshell. Like, we're not saying, hey, you're mentally healthy and you're perfect. You've grown to be more mature and take more responsibility for your reaction to things. Mentally unstable and mentally unhealthy people don't have the capability of doing it, haven't grown the capability of doing that.
Correct.
And we've seen, and I've been that way as a parent, you're just a wild card in the situation. Like, you're creating tremendous instability because of your inability to say, let me own that. We're going to rock a different way. Even as in a split decision, we're going to go in a different direction because I don't want that outcome again. And so as we daddies, it's a constant process. We're not arriving. There's things I'm thinking about right now. It's like, my adult kids need something different from me now than they did when they were teens. They're going through stressful situations. And I've learned one thing that I wish I'd had growing up is when someone recognizes you're in a stressful situation, it's just ask them, what do you need from me right now? And in that process of just them sitting and verbalizing, saying, well, right now I'm feeling this way and I could use this from you. It's like a game changer in at least my relationship with my kids. And I know that's something that didn't happen in the generation before. So, that's a way of me kind of sprinkling some better mental health, moving forward. What do you need from me right now?
Right. That's a
Yeah.
great question.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of jumping in and trying to solve something,
Correct.
asking, how can I be of assistance?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that. To dive back into a little bit, because I know we got off topic a couple times today. That ripple effect. So what does that ripple effect look like? If I'm stressed and I'm not dealing with it appropriately and I'm having these outbursts or I'm making poor decisions
Right.
around my kids, for my kids,
Yeah.
what does that ripple effect look like long term?
Well, in the kids, it looks like, my personal experiences, my kids have shut down when I haven't, or their mom and I were interacting, haven't handled the situation well. They have an outburst emotionally because they don't know how to handle it. And
Absolutely.
then it's a shutdown. So it's extreme crying and then retreat. And I know that we haven't done what we need to do when I'm seeing that, when we've seen that. And so the ripple effect is the next time that they're stressed, and I've seen it in some of my younger kids, is that they tend to be suppressors. And so I have to draw it out of them.
Mm,
What's going on here? It seems like it's bothering you. And then we just have to spend some time talking. But that's what I've seen
mm.
is the initial acute reaction of I'm overwhelmed as a child and I'm just gonna just cry. I don't know what else to do. And then I want to get away from the situation.
Wow. Yeah, I think the ripple effect looks like what you just explained. And then if we even play that out over long term, now that, we haven't dealt with what we needed to deal with,
Hmm.
and we're showing our kids like, hey, deal with it this way, which is not the right way.
Correct.
What are they doing as adults now? What do their romantic relationships look like? What do their relationships in general look like?
Mm-hmm.
How are they going to treat their kids?
Yeah,
So being a parent is an extreme responsibility.
no doubt.
You should take it personal because you are setting the stage and building a foundation for what your children are going to be able to do and are capable of doing as adults.
Yeah.
Listen, man, you got to build your toolbox
Yeah.
so your children can have a toolbox.
And say, where's that? It's so easy to become easy father.
Yeah.
And it takes, like you said, you have to take it seriously
Yeah.
and think long term, what do I want this other human being to be able to do and have?
Yeah.
And none of us as a dad, no real loving dad wants to say, I want to raise an emotionally crippled child. Can we still use that term?
Well, you didn't say
Purposely-
retard.
Right, I didn't.
I did.
You did say that, but you know what we mean. No, none of us as dad, no matter where we're coming from, are saying I want to purposely emotionally handicap my child.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but we do that
Yeah.
by not being conscious and deliberate with the good things that we need to do, or like this whole episode is about putting your own oxygen mask on in terms of your own mental health. So you're a more healthy father moving forward. You're healthier than your dad and your
Yeah.
mom. You're healthier than your grandparents.
Yeah.
You're the healthiest human that you can present to your kids so they can be.
Yeah. I mean, I've already said it once, but it's just stopping generational curses that have negatively impacted, our parents
Mhm.
and have negatively impacted us. And now we're building a bridge.
Yeah.
We're building out our toolbox
Yep.
to allow our children to experience life a little differently.
No doubt about it. Yeah. But like you said early on, you got to do the work.
Yeah.
We're here to kind of stir up some things to think about.
Yeah.
Talk about our own personal journeys
Yeah.
in that. Talk about, hey, getting right to the edge of, some really, really black thoughts.
Yeah.
Some dark thoughts.
Yeah.
And saying, no, let me let me step back from the precipice of doing something really, really, really damaging.
Right.
And that's another episode we need to touch upon because that, we just kind of mentioned in passing suicide. That is a prevalent thing right now.
Yes.
And so we don't, we might have laughed about some things, but it's not a funny matter.
Not at all.
And we know that it's not a snap decision. It's a lot of small decisions that get you there where you think, this is my best option. And so mentally, we just want to say, hey, we realize it's stressful. And there's some things to ways to walk it back. And there's some things that you can do to limit the ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of limiting the ripple effect and dealing with mental health in a positive way is acknowledging these emotional struggles that we have. Being able to acknowledge them is so important. And whatever that struggle is, it's a lot of times it is the stress, right? But that stress can lead to so many other different things.
No doubt.
Sometimes there's anxiety, right? There's anxiety that you deal with going to the meetup spot or the drop-off spot, or just having the kid for a weekend can cause a lot of anxiety because as soon as you drop her off or drop him off, that there's going to be a phone call 20 minutes later, an hour later, the next day about something you didn't do or something that your child said that now is misconstrued by your BM. So the entire weekend you're under this stress, you're dealing with the anxiety, and you're not even present with your child.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that because it's been a long time since I've done visitations. But yeah, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
The post-visitation encounters.
Post-visitation debrief, interrogation.
I didn't realize that.
Man, I got some stories about that.
Dude.
I just had one today. Not today, this weekend.
This weekend.
But now I'm
the post-visit.
the post debrief, the post interrogation.
I imagine you saying, taking a deep breath through the nose.
And no response. That's what they got. Hey, listen, because she might watch this one day. Who knows? But we're in a good spot, so I'm going to explain it, right? Just because there were times when I was under so much stress and and dealing with so much anxiety just through the weekend because I knew what was happening after that weekend was over, where I was going to get a phone call or a text message that was going to be, I'm like, what? And then I'm like, all right, we going there? So, just we could end on this story. Now I'm not there. Like, if it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't come. And she's a lot better in presenting her information now as well. So I'll give her that. She's much better in presenting that information.
Your baby mom.
Yeah. So as you know, and the audience knows at this point, that I have full-time custody of my youngest. So my oldest comes over every other weekend and some other sporadic times as well, because we have a really good relationship now. And my youngest was sick. So she had kind of a remaining cough, and my oldest BM's like, hey, if she's sick, we know we can switch weekends. I don't want our daughter getting sick because, your little one's sick too. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think she's actually sick. She might have a little remaining cough, but she's not contagious at this point. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm 99% sure she was not contagious this weekend. But my BM still knows that she was sick.
Oh,
So I get up, the drop off occurs, but I'm not even thinking about it. Back in the day, I've been thinking about, oh my gosh, don't get too close, right? Yeah, but I'm not even thinking about it all weekend. So I go to bed early, I wake up the next morning, text message like this long about how now my oldest is sick now too. I said, when I dropped her off at 3 p.m., she wasn't sick. 6 hours later, she's coughing, sneezing, and everything now.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Amazing, Charles.
Listen, I got a master's in health and sports sciences, so I know my health a little bit. I was a health educator for over a decade. I read studies. I listened to a lot of podcasts about disease and health and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure diseases don't necessarily work just like that. But hey, I could be wrong because I'm not a PhD. And the incubation period for different diseases are different. Yeah, it's just strange.
It's called the visitation incubation.
That's what visitation incubation period. So this long,
as soon as you get home,
this long
breaks out.
So I'm like, all right, that's cool. I'm going to work out. No response. And you know what? No follow up from her. Cool. All right. So I was like, after I get done working out, I was like, I'll call her on my way home because I don't do the text messages anymore, B. If you got something serious to say, and she knows that. I'm not going to respond to anything serious in a text message or anything that she believes that could be serious. All right. And if I think that she believes it's serious, I'm going to call her. Right? And I will not text you anything serious. That's just how I am. So I'm going to call her. She doesn't pick up. I'm like, cool. Whatever. Right. Call her later in the day to talk to my youngest one. She asked me questions about protein shakes.
There you go.
Hey, look, I avoided
butterflies and sunshine.
Yeah, I avoided everything there, B.
And hey, you gotta have as one of my pastors says, you gotta have a multiplicity of strategy.
Absolutely.
And that is, to kind of put a bow on it, that's mental health. That's recognizing, let me see this fight for what it is or what it could be. It's gone this path before.
Yes.
I'm well within my rights and my agency to roll with it this way, and then we'll see what shakes out. But I'm not going to get embroiled in it when I don't need to.
No.
I'll protect, like you ladies like to say, I'm gonna protect my mental. Not gonna take what you're not gonna do today. Take my piece.
But in a nutshell, that is the growth that I went through mentally and emotionally. Because me 4 or 5 years ago, let's go. Let's go. I'm ready for it.
You probably said something like, it's probably your dirty place. Something just out of pocket. It's going to stir things.
Right. So but that work I put in mentally and emotionally, meditating, praying, working out, journaling, doing all these small things, the accumulation, the compound effect, as our man Darren Hardy liked to say, over time has led me to the place where I'm like, all right, I see what you're saying there. Okay. And you know what? I actually don't mind how you approached that. It was pretty cool. Right. But I'm going to go work out. And then after I'm done working out, we'll have a phone call.
Exactly. Yeah. So, hey, we covered a lot of ground this first half. We got the second half to pick up on, but that's because this issue requires that kind of space and time.
Yes.
So if you're a dude, whether you're on the front end, you're midway trying to navigate things with your baby mama, or your old seasoned vet who's seen a lot of tough times and is a much better place. We hope you found some value in it and share with a brother that needs it.
Yeah. Be better, not bitter.
Be better, not bitter. I like that.
Yeah. I can't take full credit. ChatGPT helped.
Chat is a beast.
ChatGPT got a couple baby mamas for sure. All right. Until next time, I'm John. Peace.